so cute. Oh my god, they're like adorable to hold together. Would you like to hold them together real quick?
Of course.
Okay, just give me a minute. You know what I mean?
Kitty. I like kitties. That way, yes.
Welcome back for another sensual episode with the Black Dahlia twins. I'm Quinn.
I'm Shelby.
And we're going to take you on another adventure today. But, so for our first technical, official podcast, the other one being like a Halloween episode, so that's just something we do once a year, obviously. We will be telling more cool, creepy stories later on, don't you worry. But for now, to start off our first technical episode, I thought, since we are women, and we crazy
Sometimes. Well, okay, yes. Yeah.
in our own way. In our own way. There's a crazy out there for everyone, and I think we have a very unique amount of crazy.
Yes.
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 Agreed. So to start us off, we're going to talk about 3 women of history known to be serial killers. Not only that, they, just like us, are their own unique kind of crazy. So they're not just normal, grab a butcher knife, or... They're just not typical killers that you would think.
No.
Us women, we can get a little creative.
Took the words out of my mouth on that one. Very, very creative. Trust me, I have ideas of possibility. I have endless possibilities.
I'm scared. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, you'll find out.
That's another book club. Alright, so first we're going to start off with...
Madame Lalaurie.
Now I'm kind of interested to see what you have to tell me, because you're the one that mostly knows about her.
Yes.
I've researched some of the other ones, specifically one that we're going to talk about later, but her in general, you've told me about, and she seems a little off her rocker.
Yeah, to put it nicely, and it's weird as well. Delphine Lalaurie was born in 1780 to a Creole family in New Orleans who immigrated from Ireland.
Okay.
So, to put a long story short, she'd gotten married in her early mid-20s. He had suddenly died. She remarried 4 years later, and he had also died. There have been no issues up until a certain point in her third marriage to a Dr. Lalaurie.
Okay.
Everything was really quiet, actually, up until her third marriage. And shortly thereafter, in about, I want to say the date was about April 10th, 1834. Before this, there was a few rumors going around. Some people had stated that some of her slaves looked malnourished and were, beaten, not very well taken care of. And there were laws in Louisiana at this time, before it was part of the United States, you had to treat your slaves a certain way. Like, you couldn't be overly cruel to them.
That's crazy, because I actually didn't know, maybe a lot of people don't, that there was actually laws protecting slaves back then. Like, I almost thought, like, you just kind of do whatever you want to them, or, like, I was always nice in the thinking. I never thought of anything, like, bad. I thought more of, like, if you got a slave and you want them to work, you treat them the best as far as nourishing them and making sure they get enough sleep so that they can work the best and the hardest for you.
And I mean, I hate to use this analogy with this, but it's like taking care of an animal or like a working animal. You have to take care of it, you have to make sure it's groomed, you have to make sure it's well fed, or else it's not going to work as well as it should. And I hate using that analogy because it makes it seem like it's
No.
okay, but it is not, obviously.
That was the mentality back then. And the funny thing is, like you just explained, we treated our own human beings, they treated them more horrible than animals themselves.
Oh, of course. Which is quite sad.
It's more than sad, I should say, because they treat their own livestock better than they did their own slaves back then, which is a terrible thought to think, and that just makes me horrified of what's gonna come next.
About April 10th, 1834, there was actually a fire in the LaLaurie mansion in New Orleans, which led to the discovery of a torture chamber.
See, I didn't like where this story was going already. See, I knew it.
Where enslaved workers were routinely brutalized by Delphine LaLaurie. There had actually been a rumor that there was one young woman whose bones had been repeatedly broken and reset to the point that she resembled a crab.
Can you do that?
Back in ancient China, they had the foot binding.
I mean, but that's such a miniature scale. Like, that's making your feet smaller compared to turning yourself into something like that's like a monster.
But
That's, oh my god. I
I
can't even imagine.
but there was this fire, and the fire was actually set by a slave. She was the cook. She was a 70-year-old woman.
Good for her!
She was chained to the kitchen, where she was also starved and beaten.
And she made it to 70. I'm telling you, like, her steal right there.
Yep, she had admitted that she had set the fire so she could escape.
I mean, I would rather burn alive and take them with me.
Yeah, so
Especially if I'm that old.
and to make it worse, during this whole fire, LaLaurie and her husband were busy frantically trying to save their furniture while all these slaves are chained up. So after the fire is set, citizens hear rumors of the mistreatment of these slaves, and they get enraged and they start rioting the house. They were going to help her rebuild because a lot of accounts of people meeting Madame LaLaurie say that she was so nice that they don't see how she could have been capable of doing this to somebody else.
That just makes me laugh. Oh yeah, that Jeffrey Dahmer guy, the nicest guy. Like, I can't believe that he did this.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy? Oh my god, he is an angel, and he has got like the eyes of one, I tell you. Oh, he couldn't have done this.
No,
Really?
totally not. Yeah. There's also another rumor that she had a young girl, I want to say about the age of 7, was brushing Madame LaLaurie's hair. She snagged her hair. LaLaurie got enraged and started chasing her with a broomstick onto the roof of the house, where the girl jumped off the roof and died.
And she was 6 years old? 7?
7, roughly.
That's... wow.
But also with this fire, they also uncovered when that black cook led them up to the attic, where they found 7 slaves, 4 women, 2 men, and 1 was unidentifiable. They were tied, heavily chained, and had spiked iron collars so that if they tried to lay down, they had metal spikes going into their neck. They had also had been stretched, those old torture devices that you see in those movies where they stretch the person. That had also been done to them.
Now it's really sinking in for me real quick here. I know this was probably apparent a long time ago, but it just sunk into me that you're telling me that, and again, I still thought of like the slave thing as a totally innocent thing. You have them as servants, you have them as like, you do the hard labor. You're telling me that she actually had slaves just for the sole purpose of torturing them.
Yeah, she actually had them taken away from her at one point where she was not allowed to own any slaves. There was also rumors that her family bought the slaves and then just gave them right back to her.
That's sadomasochism. at its finest. I mean, it's like, I really don't condone that, but that's just like, wow, like a whole new level.
Yeah, and also to top it off, a lot of these slaves that they found had open sores on their butt, their back, maggot-infested wounds.
Ugh. That's like literally the only thing that makes me like puke in like those horror films. Like if they show maggots, I'm out.
And I understand. Some maggots are good for keeping wounds clean because they eat the dead flesh and keep away infection.
Yeah.
But when they're infested and there's an overabundance of them.
Yeah. Like they're having a little party inside, like you're dead already.
Okay.
Alright.
I need you to scroll down on that
No! You're not my boss. Please. You're my partner.
Can you please scroll down on the torture chamber? So on top of all these tortured slaves and the ever-growing mob outside of her house,
True,
her
right?
and her husband fled by boat and left the butler, who had also participated in these tortures.
Mm-hmm. What happened to the butler? What happened to the butler?
He had to face the wrath of the crowd. And although charges were never filed against Lalaurie, her reputation in upper-class society was destroyed. Gone.
Yeah, of course.
And it's believed that she died in Paris in 1842.
She had to have fled the country. Like, you can't live a life.
Well, especially when the whole city is after you.
Oh, yeah. I just wish that she got mobbed along with the butler. That would have been funny. All right, so one down. Let's, is it only going to get worse from here?
It's possible.
It's an up and down roller coaster. Sorry, ladies, but that's what we're all about. I know some feminists in there are going to roast me in the comments, be like, well, you know what? I am so sorry. But if you've dated any other women, obviously, then you know. You know. Don't. Just don't. Just don't. Everybody knows. You might not be an up and down roller coaster. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying all women are. I'm just saying. Yeah. I used to be like a really level roller coaster, but then I realized, I'm like, you know what? I'm hurting myself on the inside. Like, physically. Like, there's just something in our bones, like, in our DNA that's just like, nope, you need this to feel better. So, the next we have Giulia Tofana. How about you tell me a little bit about her background?
So, not a lot is known about Miss Tofana, other than she lived in the Renaissance period, 17th century Italy. She made makeup. You're not going to be able to find any photos, pictures. Not a lot is actually known about her or her early life, other than what we're about to tell you.
They say that she's born around 1620-ish in Palermo, Sicily. She was kind of coming into being. I heard a rumor on the internet that she had a mother. Her mother possibly was named Tofania Diamando. Diamando had her own dark history. The only records of her really are her being executed because she apparently killed her husband. Now that's something I thought was interesting and that I wanted to put in there because that kind of sets a background story to this woman that we're about to talk about. So supposedly her mother was into the apothecaries, and her daughter, Giulia Tofana, was trained and tutored by these apothecaries. And that's supposedly where she got her interest and where she started to realize that there are certain things in old makeup that are actually toxic if you ingest them, which I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that led to
Giulia starting to create her own makeup. And I use makeup because it she disguised this poison, which was a mix of arsenic, lead, and belladonna.
Which belladonna, if you don't know, is basically deadly nightshade.
So basically, she was in Renaissance Italy. There's a lot of arranged marriages. You didn't get to pick who you married. And a lot of women were in horrible marriages. They had no rights. They had no choice in anything. And a lot of times they were abused by their husbands.
I even heard, just a little tidbit extra, that most of these women were actually in slave trade. So they would some of these women would be bought by these men who would marry them, and that's another reason of why they just really were hard on their wives. They beat them. They did all this like horrible things to them. Not all women, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
So basically, Giulia Tofana disguised this poison as like an anointing oil or a perfume or anything along those lines. There was a couple different things that she had changed into, but a lot of times they even look like holy anointing oil bottles, so they looked very decorative. So if a husband walked by his wife's vanity and seen these little bottles, he wouldn't think anything of it.
Especially since the label themselves were said to be a different label than what she was actually advertising to her customers as they were.
And she advertised it as Aqua Tofana.
Named after her. So it was disguised as a healing ointment, like you said, and the bottle actually read Manna of Saint Nicholas of Bari, which was actually a very popular healing oil at the time. So you wouldn't think anything of it. You just glance right over it. You know exactly what it was.
Oh,
it's like,
that's what it is? Okay.
It's like,
I don't have to worry about it. It's me.
It's like putting Tylenol over, like, poison pills. You know what I mean? Like, the label. It's basically that, which she actually advertised to her customers. Again, Aqua Tofana, right? Named after her. Very sneaky. Very sneaky. She had a lot of clientele, obviously, of abused women who came to her, and they basically, through the grapevine, whatever that was back in the day, just kind of word of mouth, probably, because like women back then, they probably still had at least enough freedom to like talk to each other and like, you know, have little tea parties or something like that.
Gatherings, get together, running into each other at the markets.
Because that's what I always, they don't say that, but you know, like they always just say, oh yeah, through the grapevine, basically. But like, I'm just like, you know what? They probably had like cute little parties where they're like, come behind this curtain and we will tell you of fortunes.
But a neat little thing about this tidbit is 4 drops of this Aqua Tofana could kill a man.
Yeah, do you know how? Like,
it was colorless, tasteless, odorless. You could put it in his wine, his soup.
Wow.
Anything. And you would do it slowly over a period of time, weeks, months, as not to raise suspicion because, you know, you kind of want to have it be slow.
Well, not only that, I think, like, just because it made sense. I was reading up. It made sense when they said this. It also gave the women time to settle their affairs. So as the man was getting sicker and sicker by the day, the man would eventually be like, all right, well, I gotta make sure my wife's taken care of. Like, let's get this settled. Sneaky.
Super sneaky. Over about 600 men in the span of 50 years. Possibly more.
Yeah, and no one knows the true, like, when she eventually got caught. But how did she get caught?
They say she got caught because of a bowl of soup. You're probably wondering why a bowl of soup.
Did someone get cold feet?
Yes. Oof. Somebody got cold feet.
It takes that one person to ruin your entire company.
So this one woman bought Aqua Tofana and she was preparing her husband's food, which happened to be soup. She puts a couple drops in there and all of a sudden she starts to panic and have second thoughts. So she tells her husband, no, don't eat the soup.
Why? Why?
Just trust me. Just don't.
What did you do? What did you do?
I put poison in it.
Where did you get poison from? Where did you get poison from?
And basically...
I'm sorry, did I hurt you?
No, basically, that's probably how I envisioned it happening. She eventually said I got it from Giulia Tofana. And I was going to poison you so I could escape this horrible marriage. Not sure if she said that, but...
Well, you know, like, she probably didn't have much that she could say. They were ready to just execute her after he, like, told. Like, and then how many people got, like, so did she get caught?
Oh, yes, Giulia got caught. She was tried, was executed. Her daughter was executed, along with some employees, and a lot of women who did the poisonings to their husbands were also...
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of them were...
So anybody that they could connect to...
Yep, if you got caught, you were thrown in jail or executed. I'm not sure exactly.
But like in the old days, just as it is now, all of the lower class people got executed while the upper class people ended up kind of paying their way out and, just getting a slap on the wrist, seemed like. So on behalf of her killing like 600 men, so there was one site saying that she did that within a span of like 20 years. 20 years.
50.
50 years?
50 years.
Okay. It just seems like a lot still. Like, because they don't know if it was exactly like 50 years or if it was like almost at the end of her days. Which 50 years would be at the end of your days, wouldn't it?
Well,
I mean, back then.
Funny thing.
Depending on when they started.
The thing about life expectancies back then is there was a lot of child deaths, birth deaths, stillborn, stuff like that. So obviously that brings down the average.
Oh, is that how?
Yeah, so they do the average.
No.
They do average. So yeah, no, there was people that were living well into their 70s, 80s sometimes.
Oh, see, that's another
But
thing.
because of infant death was so prevalent and people dying younger because of sickness and all that, because modern medicine.
Yeah. Brand new babies are hard. They're hard to take care of. Pregnant women are hard to take care of.
Yeah, so that's why you'd be like, oh, well, average lifespan's like 34 years. It's like, okay, well, there's probably a lot of infantile death, which will bring down that average quite a bit.
Oh, see, morbid moment with Shelby.
Yep.
Told you they're going to be coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, she was known as the most prolific killer in history. I mean, judging by the body count.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Which...
Yeah, bravo. Bravo.
Alright, so, I bet you're wondering, who's she?
You tell me. Obviously, you know, if you're asking.
I know. She's my favorite. Obviously, because I have a portrait of her. This is Elizabeth Bathory. I don't know how I'm saying that. I'm saying it the American way because it's the only way I know how.
America.
So she was born in 1560 in Transylvania. So...
Transylvania.
Yes,
Okay.
the home of the vampires. We'll get to that later. She was a very unique woman, to say the least. You thought these women were crazy? You thought these women, well, I'm not going to say crazy because we're all crazy. Crazy is a strong word, okay? Like, don't call us crazy. Unique and brutal women that we just talked about, they don't compare. They really don't. And I'm into psychology. You know that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to school for criminal psychology. The criminal mind really intrigues me. And see, there's something about her that intrigues me. What it is she was born into a distinguished family. She had kings, cardinals, knights in her family. But as many prestige family members as she had, there were a couple of bad apples. And two of them specifically being her uncle and her aunt. Her uncle, we either have a great fondness for thinking of our uncle, or we have like literally the most shivering memories that we could ever think of our uncle. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, on that, her uncle taught her Satanism.
Oh.
Yeah, great uncle.
Oh.
I mean, really, depending, great uncle. Her aunt taught her sadomasochism. Yeah, right. So, I mean, we're already starting off the family tree. Great. So, that's kind of got to lead to a little bit of messed upness in your head.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
You would definitely think. And I mean, I have a messed up family tree. I'm sure to a worse extent than others, but probably not to as high of a degree as also some others.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes a whole new different cake. Not even the same cake. That's a different cake.
I don't want to eat off that cake.
No.
Tastes nasty. I grew up in love and acceptance and Jesus Christ, my Savior.
Ugh.
I was waiting. Now, on that, when you think of the exact opposite, and you imagine you grew up thinking this is life, this is the way
normal.
things are.
This is normal. This is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to act this way because that's how I was raised.
Exactly. So I'm laying that down first off so that you get a feel for her real quick. You know, you get to understand her. You get to be on her level real quick before I tell you the most horrible things that she has done. So, at the age of 15, Elizabeth Bathory ended up marrying a count. Count Nadasdy. She ended up marrying him at the age of 15, but before that, I'm not going to say how before that, but before that, she ended up getting pregnant with a lower class man who, and we're starting off great, by the way, great husband, especially for this woman. The Count ended up finding out who the husband or who the father was, and he tortured him, pulled his limbs apart by horses.
So he was drawn and quartered.
Yeah! Oh, yeah! And much more. Like
being drawn and quartered.
Yeah, so he's starting off as a great husband for this Elizabeth Bathory. So, in the Serge Castle, her new, beautiful husband gets her a wonderful wedding gift. Can you guess what that is?
A pony?
Close. A torture chamber.
Oh, goody!
Built in her design.
Oh, okay.
Like she's done this before. Like, you know what I mean?
Instead of designing my wedding, I want my torture chamber to look like this.
I mean, what lady wouldn't? Come on, girls.
I mean,
get with it.
I mean, I wouldn't mind my own torture chamber. There's a few people I could.
I want my own torture chamber, but in a very much different way, if you know what I'm saying. I hope that looked as seductive as I hoped it did. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, bro. This is just the beginning of her.
It's just the icing on the cake.
It's just the icing. This is just her past. Like, this is... We're not even into all the horrible things that she's done. So, in this torture chamber, you could only imagine what possibly goes on, right? Like, I think chains, I think maybe whips, things like that.
Cat of nine tails.
Yeah, things
whip,
like that. That's pretty terrible on its own. But yeah, I just think of things more like that. Or breaking your bones, things like that. What this woman had in mind. And I tell you, please, everyone, do not leave a woman in a room to think too much. because we come up with some really messed up stuff. She would take pins and jam them underneath the fingernails of her female servants. Not only that, she would tie them down, smother them in honey, and let the bees and ants have their way with them.
That kind of reminds me of another form of torture that's very similar.
It's Mother Nature at its best, everyone. You got to use Mother Nature to help give you what you want. And this woman wanted torture! The funny thing is, although the Count participated in these endeavors, I mean, he already started off great, why not continue? Make your wife happy.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
But see, he also helped restrain her impulses. So, she wasn't even doing the worst that she wanted to do. Like, he kept her level, I guess, as level could be with that woman's mind. And the fact that she kept doing these to, like, females, like, psychology speaking, I'm always wondering, like, what does she have against females? Like...
Yeah, why girls?
Why girls, right? But, so, even though the Count was actually keeping her restrained quite a bit, in the early 1600s, he ended up dying. He ended up fracturing his legs, he became immobile, and I think that's all it really said. In my opinion, that's not enough to die, but I think back then they
maybe if
killed
there's a
you.
form of infection that set in.
Maybe, yeah, that could be it too. Like, just not a form of antibiotics. He ended up dying. And so, this is where the fun begins. Because now, without her husband to help restrain her, what did this say? Yeah. She just basically became much worse. So, with the help of her prior nurse, Ilana Jo, and a local witch named Dorota Sentes. I know, what a lovely group, right?
A witch, a nurse, and a countess.
I like it already. So with their help, Bathory began abducting young girls. Young peasant girls. Someone that wouldn't be missed. But then she started getting a little cocky. She ended up making, like, a school for young females to learn etiquette. And they become young, proper women. And a lot of these girls were from, like, noble families. And we'll get to that later. What she would do to these women, or young girls, I should say, when she had them, a lot of terrible things indeed. The only thing that I can say that is recorded, I guess, is the fact that she would bite their flesh off.
Like chunks of flesh.
She would bite chunks of flesh off of them. And she would make them cook it and eat their own flesh. Yummy. I mean, at least it's myself. I know where I've been.
Well, I mean, legally you can actually eat someone's hand. So
that's crazy.
Legally, there are certain body parts that are legal to eat. Human body parts that are legal to eat.
No thanks.
Yeah. And apparently hands is one of them. My tummy was making the rumblies. Carl! That only hands can satisfy. That kills people!
No, Carl!
No, Carl!
So, and then another thing that she was reported, and this is how it kind of started the blood fetish. She apparently beat one of the girls so bad that a drop of blood, and this is just rumors of how we believe that she got started, but a drop of blood got on her skin, and she had noticed that the part where the blood had dropped on her skin had looked more youthful and more beautiful than the rest of her skin. A blood fetish began. And I can already see the wheels in your head turning. You know what's coming next.
I may have heard of her now that you say blood fetish.
So she is actually known as the first female vampire in history because she was reported abducting these girls, peasant girls, even noble girls, and draining their blood and drinking it. But not only drinking it, she would also bathe in the blood to make her more youthful. She believed that the outside bath would make her outside appearance more youthful, and by drinking the blood, it would keep her youthful.
But isn't there a medical, disease that you can get from drinking blood?
Let's figure that out!
Yeah, there's a disease that you can get from drinking too much human blood. Chug-a-lug, bitch.
That was blood, by the way. It was delicious.
Wasn't able to find out exactly what disorder you can get from ingesting blood, but it basically ruins your brain. But I'm wondering if she had what's called Renfield syndrome, to where you just have an urge to drink blood, whether it be animal or human.
It's possible.
Because that's a real thing, even though it's very rare.
Yeah, they're known as the real life vampires.
Yep.
It's more of a way of life or something like that. They feel the life force behind it, and they just they can't explain it.
They have a biological need to drink blood, even though there's no evidence to support that it's good for you.
No. Yeah.
Because our body can't process blood like a vampire bat can. Or a leech.
Yeah. I'm not ruling that out, but just from her history and things like that makes me think that she could have just totally believed that it made her youthful. But also, now that I think about it even more, I just made that comment saying they feel the energy from it. They feel revitalized. So maybe she did notice that that's how she felt when she drank it, and so maybe she does have something like that because it did make her feel better.
It's like a biological need that I have to have this in order to be healthy and feel good.
But bathing in it?
I mean, people take lavender baths, right? Epsom salt baths.
I love how you compare that to lavender salt baths. They're the same thing.
But I do it, because blood coagulates, and just that I have a thing with textures. I can feel the textures.
It is great for the skin.
Oh. Ugh.
No, have you ever done that test? Don't try this at home. Only do it if, you already have a cut. Then might as well. You take it in, the cut, and then you literally just rub it around in the skin around it, and just test. Some people actually have said that it does make their skin more, supple.
But that's your own blood, not the blood of some young child.
I mean, in the dark ways of magic, is there no other way?
Oh, okay, touche. Touche.
So not only did Elizabeth Bathory have accomplices in her works, some more than others, because she was very much rich and had a lot of connections because of her higher up family, no one ever accused her of anything. It wasn't... Yeah. No. Nobody knows the exact number of how many girls or servants that they lost to her. I just heard it's a ridiculous amount.
600!
We have a new winner! Ding, 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 ding! 600 people. Specifically, young women. 600 young women lost their lives to Elizabeth Bathory's baths. I have always wanted to say that.
I wonder if that's where the word bath came from. Probably
it was named
not.
After her.
Probably not.
Oh my god,
But-
I'm gonna say that next time when someone's taking a bath. I'm like, oh my god, are you bathing in the blood of young women?
Are you bathing in the blood of young virgins?
Specifically the virgin types, yes. Because their skin is more supple, they have not been tainted by man.
Not been tainted!
Just on a side note real quick. Virginity was a thing made up by men because they thought their penis was so important that it changes who a woman is.
I can't.
No, guys! No. Doesn't work like that. We are just as powerful. It doesn't even change, like, how your anatomy works after you...
No.
Exactly.
And
I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but the moment that you guys...
hypocrisy.
The moment that you guys have a penis and a vagina, we'll shut up. Guarantee it. We'll shut the fuck up. Alright, so Bathory's crimes were ignored until about 1610.
Oh, wow.
So she's been going at it for 35 years. She was probably taught about it from her aunt
And her uncle.
and her uncle very young, but wasn't able to participate maybe until like a later. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like what a normal, a normal sadist, what is it?
A Satanist.
Sadist household would be like.
Yeah, sadomasochist, Satanist.
Yeah, there's too many sis.
That's a lot to process.
And it took until 1610 for someone to speak up. The only reason why they spoke up was it was King Matthias from Hungary ended up calling her out on it because a lot of the young noble women that went to her school to learn etiquette were killed. So he had to do something. Like, your family can't keep quiet forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Nobody cares about the little people, but once the nobles get involved, whew, gotta do something about that.
Only the rich are important.
So in January of 1611, Bathory and her cohorts were put on trial for only 80 counts of murder. All of them were convicted, except for Bathory herself.
Of course.
She was actually tried to her castle in a specific room where the only slot was to pass food by and have air come through. She ended up dying not too long later after that. So she survived for only about 3 years before she was found dead in 1614.
I mean, she had it coming.
I'm just surprised that they just didn't execute her. Like,
That would have been... But if you think about it, though, that would have been too easy. Why not let her suffer and live with her choices that she had made?
True.
And let her live with it.
hence why they put her in her own castle. Like, hey, we're gonna put you... I bet you, they didn't say what room, but I bet you, she was put in her own torture chamber. The irony.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
They don't tell you that, but I swear that's probably what they did. They're like, you know what? You tortured people here. You're gonna live here now. But, see why I like her?
Oh, yeah, no, she's inspired a lot of characters in movies that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. They tried making a movie about her. I think I'm gonna take a tip from Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna find the next virgin female that I can find, and I'm gonna bathe in her blood. Too much?
You're gonna invite me, though, when you do this, right?
Oh, yeah.
We gotta go through screenings, you know. To
Oh, yeah,
actually-
we'll bathe together. Why not?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Gotta
I'm
say,
okay with
gotta
that.
conserve the blood, you know. It's not very many.
Bathtub's big enough for both of us.
There's not very many young female virgins anymore.
No.
Now, alright, so we wrap this up of this wonderful threesome that we just had with these lovely ladies, and you guys as well. It's been a pleasure. Hope to see you next week. We're not set on our dates yet, but
Once we start getting more into the routine, you'll be expecting a lot more regular videos, more on-time videos.
But I hope to not push out any videos later than 2 weeks. That's my plan. So at least expect a video from us once every 2 weeks for starting. And then we'll work our way up from there. So thanks for being patient with us, guys. Love you. That's my little heart. And so Black Dahlia Twins are signing off. I'm Quinn.
I'm Shelby.
And thank you for sporting with us the rest of this video. All right, you have a good one. Thank you guys for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. Hit that
Bell icon.
If you want to see more of our videos and know when they come up, please hit that bell icon for us. Thank you so much, and you have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
What? What'd you need?
Forgot one thing.
Ooh, limbo.
Oh, there's the cord. It'll be on that side, so I will just come right where I came.
Right where you came.
I will come right where I came.
You will come where you came. Alrighty.
Oh God, it's like trying to go through the birth canal backwards. It doesn't work like that.
Nope.
At least it sounded less like a dying elephant.